Shalom, everybody. Today we'll talk about the blessings after the Kriyat Shema of Mariv, and I wanted to discuss just as an introduction the idea of what exactly happened during the Exodus. So, from chapter 12, verse 12 until 39, it is very clear that during the night is when Hashem smote all the firstborn, and that's here in verse 12. In this night, and I will kill all the firstborn. And then on verse 14, so this day will be for you as a memory because the Jewish day starts at night, and so during the day is when they actually left Egypt. But one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have is that the reason why they baked matzahs, that they only had matzahs is because they had to run out of Egypt, which is what it says in verse 39. But even before that, way before that, it says in verse 15, matzah tochelu, and 17, shmartem et matzot, etc., etc. So it is very clear that Hashem already wanted us to have the idea of matzah, even without this idea of hastiness. So already in Genesis, when Abraham was hosting the three angels, it says, "Ve'maher Avram o'ela el Sarah." So Abraham hastened into the tent and said, "Quick, 3 seah of choice flour, knead and make cakes." The word ugot. And the other time that the word ugot is mentioned is back in the verse that we read, that you shall eat. Sorry, that's in verse 39, that they did ugot matzot. See here, and um, and even before that, when Lot had the two men come to him and afterwards found out that they were angels, also said, "Umatzot afav." They ate matzahs. He baked matzahs for them to eat. So the idea of matzah, at least according to Rav Hess, is the idea that we don't let something just be lazy and let it rise. We always have to be in action in order to make sure that it remains matzah, that it doesn't rise, that it doesn't ferment. And so that's a very beautiful idea that Hashem already told them that they have to have matzah even without the circumstances that forced them supposedly to bake the matzahs. So just wanted to share that in order to understand better why this blessing goes from the night to the day. So the main part of the Exodus occurred during the day when the Jewish people left Egypt. Therefore, the primary obligation of adjoining redemption to prayer is in Shacharit. So we say Gaal Yisra'el, and immediately we start the Amidah. Nevertheless, because the redemption began at night, there is also a mitzvah to adjoin redemption to prayer at night. Yet we are not as meticulous in adjoining redemption to prayer in Ma'ariv as we are in Shacharit. So we don't say Gal Yisrael and immediately the Amidah, but rather between Gal Yisrael and Amidah, we have another blessing. Therefore, the Chachamim, the sages, instituted Birkat Ashkivenu, lay us down in restfulness after Birkat Gal Yisrael, and considered it a continuation of Gal Yisrael. For in Birkat Gal Yisrael, the blessing concerns the redemption of all the Jews as collective whole, while in Ashkivenu we request the redemption of the individual from the dangers of the night. So in exile, that's when these blessings were added. In exile, we of course remember the redemption from Egypt, but we also say, right now we have extra, we need extra protection from the dangers of the night. And so if somebody works during the night and goes to sleep in the morning, he doesn't say Ashkivena because the daytime is not as scary as the nighttime. We also talked about the difference between Emet V'Yatziv and Emet V'Emunah, where Emet V'Yatziv is a solid faith that everything is true, as opposed to Emet V'Emunah, where we have to rely more on faith and believe that nothing bad will happen. Were we to be strict about adjoining redemption to prayer, it would be impossible to say Birkat Ashkivenu after the blessing regarding their redemption. Similarly, half Kaddish is recited between Birkot Kriyat Shema and Amidah, for that is the order of the prayer at every transition point from one stage to another in the prayer service. Chazal established saying the Kaddish, and we said already before that the half Kaddish is the essential Kaddish, although in Shacharit Kaddish is not recited immediately before the Amidah because of the great importance of not interrupting between redemption and prayer. In Ma'ariv, in which there is no need to be as meticulous in enjoining redemption to prayer, Kaddish is recited between Birkot Kriyat Shema and Amidah. Just before we continue to Rosh Chodesh, uh, outside of Israel, both Ashkenazim and Sephardim, as far as I know, have the custom of saying Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen V'Amen, which mentions the word Baruch 18 times, corresponding to the 18 blessings of the Amidah. That's why we don't say it on Shabbat. That's why we don't say it on Yantev. And again, it was in order to make another paragraph available for people who came late. That way, we all say Shmoneh Esrei together. So people who come late will actually only say the first two blessings and the second two blessings in between the Kriyat Shema, and then afterwards go straight to the Amidah without having to wait to say Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen if they were late. So the custom in many places on Rosh Chodesh night is that the Gabbai announces the words Ya'aleh V'Yavo before the Amidah prayer, and on the night of the 7th of Cheshvan, or the 5th of December, when we begin to ask for rain, the Gabbai declares Talu Matar. In Shacharit, again, we cannot interrupt with speech. Instead, the Gabbai or Chazan reminds the congregation that there is something different in this Amidah by pounding on the pulpit. And yes, I was there last week when Shia found smacked the pulpit to remind us to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and that's exactly. But in Mariv, we are allowed to say it because it is part of the prayer and to remember. Yet in Mariv, we are lenient and express this reminder verbally. It doesn't have to be the Gabbai; it can be the rabbi or somebody else. Still, there are those who pound on the pulpit in Mariv as well, so as not to interrupt with speech. But that depends really on the community if they understand what that smack is or not. One who arrives late when the congregation is about to start praying the Amidah should recite the Amidah with the minyan and then make up Birkot Kriyat Shema afterwards. And in Shacharit, it's exactly the opposite. In Shacharit, the halacha is that he must recite the prayers in order because adjoining redemption to prayer is more important than praying in a minyan. However, in Ma'ariv, prayer in a minyan takes precedence, and therefore he prays with the congregation and afterwards makes up Birkot Kriyat Shema. So I think that was a very good explanation of why we are allowed to make those little interruptions. And also, again, like I said, Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen was also in order to make sure that somebody can catch up because it is pretty lengthy. It takes me about 2 minutes to say it, and well, I wasn't used to say it in Israel, so I'll just explain that last comment. In Israel, the rabbis decided already in the Talmud that there aren't the shedim, the demons, and the other pestilence that dwell at night. We are protected by Hashem in Eretz Yisrael. So in Eretz Yisrael, the custom is not to say Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen Amen ever. So just wanted to clarify that, and we'll stop here.